Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday service. Good Lord, here we all are again.
Evening.
Hello.
You're the master of ceremonies.
No, I'm shutting up to let you lot get a word in edgeways. So there we go.
That'll make a change, wouldn't it?
It will make a change. How are we? How are we, gentlemen? I'm going to have a swig of tea. So how are we, gentlemen?
Good.
Very good.
Yeah, fine.
A little bit warm.
All good here. All good here.
Yep. It's been absolutely glorious weather today. I don't know how it's been at your neck of the woods, Ian, but it's been
A little blowy, but a bit cloudy.
very blowy here, actually.
It's been rather nice, hasn't it, all day?
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice wind. Nice breeze.
Yeah, a few little rain showers in mid-afternoon, but that seemed to.
How's Northern California, Chris?
Oh, it's just we just had a couple of days of 90-degree heat, but it's broken today and it's back to average. So very nice.
Oh, that sounds grim.
Yeah.
Well, not as bad as like last night at about 10:30 when the illegal fireworks stash across the estuary in Oakland exploded. But
Yeah.
exciting and colorful, boy.
That actually made the news, didn't it, as well? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
saw
went up
that
like a Russian
American
airfield.
website, so I was like, "Oh, I know where that is." But Chris knows where that is as well by now. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it from my backyard. It was great.
Lovely.
This little 4th of July come early. Very nice. Thank you for that treat. But yeah. I like Drew's comment. It was like watching a Russian airfield. It was great.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, it's a frabjous day.
How are we getting on with projects at the moment, gang?
Oh, I'm having a
Well,
lovely.
I think we start with Ian because he's to the right of John on my screen. So
If we go by size, Ian has to go first.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, okay. So, I've got a couple of things on the bench in a minute. One which is sort of rumbling along that's a long termer, so I'll show you that. So, this is an AMT 1950 Ford convertible that I've been working on for quite some time. There's a bit of work gone into this one. It's a dust on front and rear ends, and it's been fiddled around with. The roof section's what's important. This is actually a vintage piece from the original release kit. So it dates back to about 1963, 64, that plastic there. It came off of a model that was built by the father of a friend of mine that Chris knows, a lady by the name of Linda, and it was gifted to me a while ago, and I've been, beating it into shape for what seems like a very long time. So it's actually at a point now where we're rapidly approaching paint.
that's an attractive body, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah, the shoebox Fords, the 40, the 50, 49, 50, 51 Fords, and hence also the Mercurys of the same period, were some of the most attractive cars of the era. They still have a massive following as a classic as well. But that
looks every inch a classic car to me. That's
yeah.
It's not oversized. It's got nice lines. I really like that.
So this is a cut down roof from a later Ford Victoria. Now, this is a typical AMT thing. In the first release of the kit, there was this roof and a thing called a Carson hood, which is like a padded fixed roof for a convertible. They only lasted 2 issues of the kit, so by the mid 60s they were gone, and they've never been back in it. The guys at round 2 say that they can't be put back into it from the existing tooling, so they have to be retooled, which is a real shame. But perversely, the chopped windscreen that goes with the roof, the glass for it, and the various fittings for it, and the rear glass are still in the kit. It's just the roof section that disappeared. So good fun, that, yeah. But yeah, that's it's coming on. Actually, I'm quite pleased with the shape. It's getting to the point now where I can. There's little things I can see that I'll little dab of super glue and a sand here, and then another coat of primer. But at some point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it with some silver, and it will show up any remaining surface imperfections that need attention. Because I'm going to put a candy green on this, which I meant to pick my sample piece up of, and I forgot. This is Gunze's candy green.
Good lord.
So it's going to be like that. So there's Gunze in the GX range now do a coarse silver for going under these kind of clear coats. So that's what's under that. And in fact, hang on, let's see. There you are. You can possibly see it a bit better there. You can see the flakes through it.
That's to give it that coarse, to give it that candy effect.
Yeah. And then the clear, it's a very heavily tinted clear over the top of it. So that's going to be all over with that, possibly with a contrast color on the roof just to pick it out. So that's an ongoer. But the big one I've been working on is this. This is the Italeri Lancia Stratos in 12th scale, which I'm doing for Hobbyco, which made an enormous amount of progress in a 4-hour stint this morning before I went to work. So that's actually looking like a chassis now. We've got some front suspension pieces on it, springs, yeah, and then just a good look, a motor, which is about ready actually. Once I've got the exhaust pipes fitted onto it to go into the chassis.
Nice.
At about 11:30 last night, that was being sworn at profusely because those spark plug heads would not stay where I wanted them. But there you go. So that's what I've been up to for a little bit longer than I thought I would be. But I mean, that's so many things I can say about that Stratos kit, but I'm gonna save that for another day.
And you've built that engine completely out of the box, haven't you?
Yeah. So there's literally nothing on that
No.
isn't in the box.
Mm-hmm.
It's and which okay. There's some painting effort gone into it. I've realised I've scratched the red on the head on one of the headers, putting those things on. But I mean, there's nothing in that in the box. And if you follow the instructions to the letter, and I will say with the engine to the letter, if you try and skip stages and go back and do bits later on, it ain't going to fit. I found that out with the alternator mount and everything. I had to.
You're not suggesting that modelers follow the instructions. What madness is this?
Radical
well,
idea that is.
So I learned the lesson. I did.
Got cats and dogs living together?
No, that's unlikely and all. Yeah, I didn't do it, Drew, and I built up the alternator bracket and unit, and then thought, I'll pop it on afterwards, and then started doing other bits. And when I got to the point of assembling it, I realized that this, which is the oil filter system, which is a pumped oil filter, just quietly blanks everything off. So you can't then get the thing back into place. So all of that then had to come back off again. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it, actually, to be honest. I think yeah. You'll know from our private conversations just how annoyed I was with it around about Tuesday. But yeah, it's coming on now.
Chris, you have been you are feline fine at the moment, because that's a hint for what you're working on. You are working on your tiger cat, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I got it all together about maybe 2 weeks ago, and I started painting it. I've got a deadline for it, so I'm trying to get it done in time. But painted it using some lacquers, and then I attacked it with some grays. You can see here. This is in the raw before any gloss coat or anything applied. A little bit of gray applied to a post-it note, and then the kind of the slight overspray provides that little bit of shading on there. Also masked off the nose and the various panels there, and then I hit it with some gloss coat, and a lot of that's became a much more subtle. It can kind of look scary and patchy, and then you put the gloss coat on it, and it all smooths out a little bit. So that's fun. And got the decals on, as you see there. It's those are draw decals, which are not it's not my favorite brand, but it's the exact airplane I wanted to do, basically. So with the modification of the nose number, that all went out without any problem. And my secret for chipping, before I painted this thing black, I painted it Rattle Can Tamiya silver or aluminum. It was a really ugly natural metal finish, but it works out great for weathering because you can actually take and chip it physically with the tip of an X-Acto knife or a thumbnail, and it looks pretty good. Not the secret is not overdoing it. I built one of these a long time ago, and I think I went crazy with the chipping because it was so much fun. But there's the nacelles, and those are draw to detail 3D printed engines, which are fantastic. So it's coming right along, and I've got a schedule now. It's like today's weathering day, tomorrow will be landing gear day, the day after that'll be canopies and antennas day, and hopefully I can get this sucker done and on its way to Seattle.
Such a great looking aeroplane, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's the model itself is pretty nice, honestly, for being 65 years old as a kit, and the one I'm building is actually, weirdly enough, the cover subject of the detail and scale, or I'm sorry, the in action book. I should do a collection at some point of cover subjects I've built models of, because I've got a bunch of them in my display case, not just sort of by accident. But that and the other thing, I'm going to have to leave a little bit early today because I've got an appointment in Fremont to finalize the contract for our club contest in 2 weeks. Ooh. And do the walkthrough there, which is also takes up time. We've got a big box full of trophies to put together over here, and the fun that goes on when you're involved in your club's activities.
True.
Still plugging away with the Jaguar, really, but we're starting to
nice.
We're starting to make some really good progress now. It's all the markings have been applied, and it's had a gloss coat over the top. And in fact, even started applying matte varnish to a few odds and sods. But yeah, as you can see, it's now more or less all together, and we're just adding things like the pitos and sensors and stuff.
Did you freehand that camo on that?
No, that's masked with blue tack.
Okay.
And the wheels are now, spent the day painting, getting the wheels painted, ready for installation and weathering and stuff on the undercarriage. So I did originally design these wheels with separate hubs, but I've just decided that I actually prefer them. It's just as easy in one piece with these masks that we got from. It's just as easy to do them in one piece and mask and spray the hubs. It's less hassle, and that looks pretty good to me. So yeah, there's that, and it's a big tray of odds and sods. Things like the reconnaissance pod here has received a matte coat, so there's no weathering or anything on any of this yet. There's my CBLS 100s attached to the outer pylons with the shackles inside them and stuff. So yeah, there's those done. Drop tanks are flat coated as well. Yeah, it's coming along. Hopefully, I'll get it finished this week. So I've started painting getting the base coats on the undercarriage legs and stuff, so all that can go together. And then I guess some people have seen that I decided to do a boarding ladder for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I designed and see if I can.
Oops, he's gone a bit Doctor Who.
That's all right. That's fully intentional. So yeah, I designed a boarding ladder in Fusion for it. Yesterday, spent a few hours on that yesterday, actually tweaking it and printing it, and then sort of and tweaking it again to end up with this, which obviously will go on the side there when it's finished. It's a little detail that's added. So as is usual, these things. Mike Reeves said, "Oh, I'll have that." So I've designed a a cage for it, so it prints like that in one part, and it will be protected in postage for those who want it. And just to show you, you can use a pair of scissors, look, to snip.
I'm just trying to think, how would you explain this technology 40 years ago when Tim Perry was doing his PP stuff? You just science fiction, isn't it?
So
40 years ago, what Tim was doing was thought of as
well,
black magic.
That was cutting edge, wasn't it? So,
Yeah.
but then the cage will just snip off like so.
It's a shame you can't use that cage for some other modelling project.
Well,
isn't it?
people want to, but it's like, it's 2 pence worth of resin ultimately. So, and then this will just, he says, immediately running into bits of, so snip them off, and then you just run a knife along all these very, very small separation points like that.
I was just going to say, we remember when the PP Aero Parts ladders came out. Every model in the competitions at every show had a ladder.
Yeah.
So they were the most fashionable accessory you could get, weren't they, for a while?
And that is literally how quickly that comes away from the backing, and that to clean up the release.
400 stick.
That's a 800 grit.
Oh, 800. No.
And just a little bit of sanding with a sponge there to clean up the attachment points, and that is basically now ready to attach.
Jim Altegott has a question here, Drew. He says, does warming up 3D printed resin parts make them less brittle and easier to remove?
Yes.
There we go.
There's a couple of there's a couple of things with 3D resin printed parts. Most of the resin that people use for these sorts of parts, it tends to be the ABS likes. Now the thing is, once they're cured, they're actually they're very, very strong, but they can be quite brittle. I'll show you with this. This is, that's, and it just springs back, yeah. And so you can see it's really quite
Forgiving.
It's really quite tough,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll just spring back. But larger parts tend to be brittle. A lot of people think with some parts, you should really remove them from their supports before you cure them. So it would be a case of clean, then cure. Obviously, when people like Mike are sending these out, they've really got to be cured before they're sent, because people don't have a UV lamp at home. By generally speaking, so they don't tend to have a UV lamp at home. So it needs to be cured before it goes out. So then it's a case of carefully designing the supports, like on this, where you can see how incredibly fine those supports are. So those supports are, I think they're about 0.4 millimeter in diameter, and the actual contact point at the top is 0.2 millimeters. So they are actually tiny. That's why there's hundreds of them. But even when cured, it'll more or less just peel away from that without any damage to the part. So you have to be quite careful with that sort of thing. But yeah, it can be quite brittle. You can get other resins that are far more, far less, I should say, brittle. Stuff like Soraitec tenacious is incredibly flexible. It's also eye-wateringly expensive. So
your brother has a request. He says, I want the cages for a Warhammer tank conversion. There we go.
I mean, the thing is, the cage was designed afterwards, to go round the part. So, am I still on the screen?
You
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
So that's the cage there. That's a plate of them ready to print, and you can see how the cage goes around.
No, I can't. I
Cage.
can't see,
I know.
can't see a thing.
We're looking
Drew.
at you.
We're looking.
Oh,
at
you're still looking at me. I do
Yeah.
apologise. Let's have a look. Let's go. What about now?
There we
There
go.
you go.
Yeah. So that's it. That's how it looks ready for printing. And the cage was designed separately. In fact, if I go to Fusion, that's the cage as I designed it. And so you just drop those two parts into the slicer, and you merge them to create that. And then you just copy them and
Not having actually used a 3D printer at all, what's the print time on something like that, Drew?
print time for these, because they're not very tall, this just under 2 hours.
Well, it's not too bad then, is it? Yeah.
So, but I mean, it depends. You know, it would be 2 hours regardless of how many of those you've got on the bench, because in resin printing, the Z height determines the print time.
Right.
Because it's printing a layer at a time. So the more layers, the longer it takes.
Yeah.
Whereas with FDM printing, it's a very, very different way of calculating print times. But these are quite simple. Total height determines print time, and these took, I think it was about 1 hour 51 minutes. But I was doing some stuff as well, which was very much taller, and it was like a 22 hour print time. So you just set one of your printers up, walk away. But some of the stuff on FDM printers can be 3-day print times.
Yeah,
people have got to walk away and leave it for 3 days.
This was why I asked the question, because I had a friend who had one of the filament type printers, and he was printing something to do with Star Wars cosplay, and he set this thing printing, and it was printing for 4 days, and it failed in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, I was having quite a lot of problems about 3 or 4 weeks ago with my printing, and I changed the FET films on both my vats, properly tightened them, and I haven't had a failure since. So it's
Keeping on top of the maintenance.
It can still feel like a little bit of a dark art sometimes, if you know what I mean.
Got a question here from Paul Voyle. He says, I wonder what people make of kits like the new 32nd scale Bolt and Pull Defiant as opposed to injection molded. Well, I would say in this instance, nobody is doing a 32nd scale injection molded Bolt and Pull Defiant.
I mean, I know that Jamie Hago's got one, and I think Jennifer Wright's got one as well. Mm-hmm. So far, they've received pre-production examples, and it looks great. It's for things that aren't available in any other format, and would a 32nd scale Defiant sell?
Yeah, I think it would.
Do you think it would sell enough? Do you think it would sell enough to justify spending £100,000 on the tool
or more?
That's the issue. Now you can talk you can do 4 or 5 different Spitfire and Hurricane variants, and perhaps finance a Bolt and Pull Defiant as a sort of personal project,
a vanity project.
But you really have to look at something like that as being a 25-year investment to get your money back, because a Bolt and Pull Defiant just isn't that well known. Mm-hmm. Again, I think it's separating our desires as enthusiasts from commercial.
Well, you say that, and yet in the last 10 years, who would have thought, in the last years of the 19th century, who would have thought that we would end up with new 72nd scale mainstream Defiant, 72nd scale and 48 scale mainstream Defiants from Airfix? So. Yeah,
I'm not saying it can, but they have been stuck in between, Spitfires and Hurricanes and
Mhm.
things like that. So
The
you know.
world's worst BF-109. Yeah, that one.
which one?
The G in 70 seconds go.
Oh, good lord! Yeah,
Yeah.
let's not. Let's not.
You got shivers
I think you have to bear in mind, this probably took a lot of hours of design work, but the printing and stuff like that is relatively easy to do if you've got a big enough printer, and you've properly mounted and supported it. So,
Yeah, sorry. The reason I'm interested in it is I'm never going to go the route of probably getting my own machine. 'Cause frankly, I can't afford it, and B, I have no inclination to. But there are people coming into my marketplace, into the car marketplace. There's a company called Area 71 Slot Cars, who have decided to take, because they do resin and now 3D printed resin body shells for slot cars, but they've decided to now come into the kit market with full detail kits. Full 3D printed resin, full detail kits, which of subject matter that I'm never going to get from a mainstream kit manufacturer.
yeah.
I mean, this current generation of Le Mans hypercars has attracted absolutely zero interest from the kit manufacturers. You'd have thought Revel might have bitten on the BMW, but it's been running for 3 years. They aren't even anywhere near it. There's the Hella might possibly have gone for the Alpine or the Peugeot. Nothing. So there's clearly no interest in producing kits of it, of those subjects. But these guys are turning out. One of the first releases they let me know about that's coming as a full kit. 1964 Ferrari 250 GTO. Now, different to the GTO that everybody goes, oh yeah, it's the 64 car. Never been kitted in injection molded plastic. That thing ran Mille Miglia, Targa Florio, Le Mans, a lot of big races around over the years. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. So I now get a 3D printed kit, and I love that idea. It's me.
Oh. All right. We'll remove you for the moment, Ian.
No, it's done.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think it's, although I do kind of subscribe to the idea that there's some subjects you're never going to get a kit of until you get a kit of it. Which happens all the time. It happens all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who would ever have thought we'd have a kit of this or a kit of that, and then somebody sees it and go, yeah, we're going to do that.
I'm just gonna dive on to. We're gonna have to crack on with the news in a second, but here's a question from Dave Fleming. He says, "Does licensing put off manufacturers from these new cars?"
I suspect that's a principal issue. When Tamiya are no longer putting Goodyear decals in their kits,
tells a story, doesn't it?
I suspect licensing is an issue right across the, I mean, the RAF tried to trademark the Wrangle, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you know what? Just
what's it? Be at Boeing, isn't it? Now own all the F-16 and F-18 and all
no,
that.
they Boeing. They don't own the F-16. That's Lockheed.
They've all. If you look at all the packaging of the later kits, it always says.
What you tend to find is that Boeing now licenses Douglas, McDonnell Douglas, North American, all those, because all those have come under Boeing now. But you tend to find Grumman will be licensed by Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of them apparently a lot of the licensing is very reasonable. It's more to protect their trademark than anything, which I understand. But I think the car manufacturers and people connected with those licenses are just looking for money.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Ferrari license is actually about the easiest one to get. Which is peculiar, but there you go.
Right, let's dive on with some news, and we will kick off tonight with ClearProp, and oh my goodness me, they're going for something colourful.
Yes.
They are offering a pair of Boeing F4Bs, F4B4s to be more precise. They're offering them in US Marines guise and US Navy. Sadly, it doesn't come with a scale model of the Empire State Building and a large.
I was just about to say that US Marines one has got an aerial mast so tall I expect to see an ape with a woman in its hand on top.
There we go.
That is gigantic. Well, actually, it's probably not. It's just that the F4 is so small.
Yeah.
The artwork's beautiful, isn't it? That's absolutely stunning.
Yep. These look well. I think Clearprop will probably do very well out of these because there are so many color schemes you can hang on these aircraft. Yeah. I may even be in the market for one myself. Add that to the great big long list of things I want to build this year, but they just look fabulous, don't they?
Oh yeah, no, these are spectacular looking airplanes, and you're right. It's not just that every squadron had a different scheme. It's like every airplane within every flight within the squadron had a different scheme. There was a single color for the carrier, and then the cowlings and the chevrons all denoted what that airplane's position was supposed to be in the squadron, which is it is a testament to how confident they were in their maintainers to keep all the airplanes flying. But it makes for great modeling. And then the Marines, they got them secondhand, so you can beat them up pretty badly.
I was just going to say that's quite interesting. There, you got two aircraft. One's got the white on the cowl on the underside. The other one's got the white on the upper surfaces. So,
flights. Yeah. I've got it. That denotes the flight, if I remember correctly, within the.
Yeah, and the position of and which one's the leader and which one's the wingman and all that kind of stuff. So they're all a little different. And
but I'm at it because there is a P12 to come after this, isn't there? So
yeah.
It's I think it's a great release. It has my attention, and I don't tend to build biplanes, but I've got that kind of Matchbox thing.
Yes, I was trying not to mention Matchbox because I could hear the collective rolling of eyes out there. It's like, oh, he's mentioned Matchbox again.
Now Monogram did a very nice 72nd scale ones a while back, being like 60 years ago. That they were part of that triad with the F11C and the P6 that were almost impossible to screw up. Great kits. So
on that note, there you go. A box F11.
Sorry, Ian, we can't see it. There we go.
There it is. Yeah, that was the first model I ever built that I didn't just play with until it fell apart.
It's been kicking around the corner of my workbench for years, and I've never even taken cellophane off it. There's probably a something else in it, but it's just been sat there. And I offered it to Spencer at one point, and he didn't take me up on it. But never mind.
Next news item, and I get the feeling, Drew, this probably has your attention. It's X-Scale. I know it's a company that you have an affinity for, and they are doing the ATR 42 in 144 scale. This is the ATR 42 -200/300. To fill you in on a bit of background, the ATR 42 is a regional airliner produced by Franco-Italian manufacturer ATR, blah, 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 blah. It's a joint venture between the French Aerospatiale, now part of Airbus, and Air Italia, now Leonardo SPA. The ATR 42-300 performed its maiden flight on the 16th of August, 1984. The high-wing airliner is powered by two turboprop engines, Pratt & Whitney Canada PW120s. The number 42 in its name is derived not from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's derived from the aircraft's original standard seating capacity of 42 passengers. So there we go. Drew, does this have your attention?
It'll be very, very small in 144th, but it does, and I've no doubt an ATR 72 will follow, which is just a stretched variant of this. So I think it's a nice subject. I think it's a really attractive aeroplane as well. And I've flown on one this year, I have to say. I've flown on an Aer Lingus one. So it's just a very, very attractive aeroplane. This and the CN235 are very, very attractive little regional airliners. So no, I mean, I'm all in. I think it's great. I think it's a great choice of subject, and there's quite a few military variants of this as well. So it's nice to see Xscale really pushing ahead with a release schedule, because the 707's out now, and this week they announced a 737 Classic to 737-200, which it just makes me
squeal.
Super pleased, because the Airfix kit has done sterling service, but it's time. So I mean, as much as I like the subject choice, I like what it portends for Xscale as a company. They've really come through from sort of the first release being the DC-8, really, and sort of quite a slow start, and now they're really starting to pick up pace with the releases, and I'm all for it. More power to Xscale, the Ukrainian company again, and doing great stuff. So yeah, I want one.
I like their tooling choice of doing the entire clear area there, just dropping it in as a section. I think that's very good thinking. That so
Yes.
Yeah.
I flew into Nuremberg with Air Berlin in one of those. That was an experience.
When you say that was an experience,
choppy
the
weather?
aircraft's wonderful. The seats were all leather, and the air hostesses were typically Teutonic. You will be having some sweet, and that kind of thing. Yes, it was very good, actually. The funny thing is, no, not the funny thing. The interesting thing is, Nuremberg airfield, as you're flying over the active element of the airfield, the non-active element of the airfield is quite an interesting thing to look at. There are dispersals and things. So
I have to say, I really enjoyed my flight on the Aer Lingus one earlier this year to Ireland. It's like, because they don't get very high, it sort of topped out at about 13,000 feet altitude. Whereas you fly on an Airbus or a 737, and it's like 29,000-30,000 feet before they start descending. So it really felt like a puddle jump. It was an hour and a bit, and you could almost see what was going on the ground and the sea the whole way, just looking out the window. So it was my jokes about flying Buddy Holly Airlines were not fair, but it was nice. Dave Swindell said the Italeri ATR 42 is a bit portly. I've never seen that kit.
No, I didn't even know they did one.
They announced it. It was announced, and it's sort of like in the catalogue for a few years, and it seemed to be fading in and out of the catalogue. And then, I mean, had Dave not put that there, I would have said, well, I guess this is a replacement for the never released Italeri one, which apparently was released.
Yeah.
So,
to be fair, if anybody's going to know on that, that's Dave. Dave will know.
Yeah,
that's his thing. Yeah.
Well, here we go.
It looks nice, doesn't it?
I'm on the Italeri website here at the moment. Cat fight outside.
2050.
What there isn't outside is wind chimes tonight, because I took them down after Tim Maunders' profanity-fueled tirade last week. So, no, we love you, Tim. Oh, here we go. Discontinue production. I've just spotted the orange blob on the corner there. So, so I didn't know Italeri did one, but that's a 500. So I think that's.
No, I knew it was in the. Yeah, that's a 500. That's got the different engines and props and stuff.
There we go. 2015.
No, I honestly completely, because when it was announced, I was quite keen, and then it just
10 years ago.
Catalogue for years, and then I kind of forgot about it.
Yep, still 10 years ago. Think about it, that isn't it? We don't think of 2015 as 10 years ago.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, not helping.
Well, older than you, so don't worry.
All right, Ian, earn your keep.
Oh, here we go. Right, okay.
Because here we go. This is a follow-up from what we were talking about the other week on the car service. This is Belkit's 24th scale Toyota Yaris Rally 1 hybrid, and there are more images of it.
It's the bell kits have come on over since they arrived with a range of the most. They obviously they concentrate very heavily on rallying. Their kits are always nicely detailed. There'll be bits of photo etch and stuff in there. You can see that from that picture. Decals are always really, really nice. They are a lovely kit. You need to concentrate when you're building them. That's kind of my only observation on them. I've done a couple over the years. The Polo that they did, which was an earlier release, that was a very complicated but ultimately beautiful kit. But yeah, I'm quite interested in that. I've not had one of theirs for quite some time, and I might be changing that when this one arrives, just because, well, a hybrid rally car, it's a bit of an odd, you don't gel in history of motorsport, does it? With motorsport, it's always got to be the loudest or the most powerful. That's going to be that thing. That, however, having seen footage of it now, it's an animal. It's great. Yeah, I see Tim saying the Polo is wonderful. Yeah, it's a great kit to build, but like I said, and you'll agree with me, Tim, no doubt, it does need you to concentrate when you're building it, just to make sure you get everything right as you go, because there's a couple of bits, and much like the Stratos, there's a couple of bits. So if you don't work that location out right, and you don't quite, everything just compounds from that point of view, and then you have to wind it all back again. The rear bulkhead locations, for instance, in that Stratos shell aren't quite where you want them to be, so you have to really be careful. But
that's quite common these days, though, isn't it? We've got we've got. You'll have to excuse me. I'm actually painting here now. The kits are so precisely tooled these days that getting it wrong at one stage of construction can sort of filter through the whole.
Yeah.
And particularly with Tamiya kits, when you see a Tamiya kit and somebody's saying, and I saw somebody on talking about a Hasegawa 48 scale Sabre last week, saying what a complete nightmare this kit is and nothing fits. And you're like, sorry, that's a you problem. That's you haven't been. You have not paid attention to the build as you've been going, and a problem that you introduced earlier in the build has just compounded its way through the build and left you with this horrendous fit issue.
I have a friend who's very honest about this kind of stuff. He has an inside contact with Tamiya, so he gets things early. He says, F-35 is on the table. Says, this is a great kit. Don't jump ahead in the instructions because you'll never get it to fit. And I can tell you why.
They are very, very clear about that. They're very, very well researched assembly sort of procedures for kits like Tamiya. But we had this problem with Airfix kits a while ago, didn't we?
Yeah, where the tolerances on the bulkheads
tolerances on a bulkhead was so tight that a coat of paint would throw it off, and you had to constantly say to people, no, you need to be checking the fit and adjusting as you go.
I got to the point where I developed the habit of building, when we were building things like the Spitfire, the 72nd Spitfire 5C and the Mark 1, of running micro tape down where the bulkhead lines were on the insides, then painting it, taking the tape off and put the bulkheads in, having looked at it, having then sanded the outer edges then, because you just didn't need any paint in there at all. That
funny enough, I developed a fairly similar habit, just using a thin chisel blade to go around the inside where to scrape the paint away from where the bulkhead and stuff would fit.
That paint on those bulkhead edges on that interior was enough to knock it out. So the upper nose join was then never right. And that knocked onto the onto the windscreen fit, and that knocked onto the main glass fit, and you have that constant, and the problem is every time you do it, it just makes it that little bit bigger and bigger and bigger as an issue.
I think the biggest issue, the kit with the biggest issue out of that was the Airfix links, the 48 scale links. If you misalign the bulkheads when you're building it and don't make sure you check the fit of that as it goes along, it will throw the entire fuselage assembly out. And it's not a fault of the kit, because the kit is very, very precise.
Yeah,
it's just people tend to glue stuff, let it dry, and then try to fit it. It's I mean, like Roy says there with the Eduard 72nd scale Focke-Wulf 190. I built about 6 of those on the trot, and you very, very quickly develop a method, which means you know it's going to fit. You know it's going to work. You sort of fumble about a bit with the first one, and it maybe not look as great as it could do. But after that, the other ones were like Roy says, Swiss watches. You know exactly what you're doing. You know where you've got to adjust. You know all of that, and it goes on rails. But modern tooling will make you pay for poor planning, shall we say?
This next news release should be interesting to see how this has been broken down. This is Dora Wings, and they are doing a brand new tool, 72nd scale, de Havilland Canada Beaver. This is the AL1 version. It's going to be interesting to see how they've tackled the slab-sided fuselage on this, because it looks like they've done it in almost like a flat pack kind of like breakdown. What a fabulous aeroplane, though! Goodness me.
It's a post-war classic.
A great subject. I've had one of these on my list to do for a long time, because my friend David Cunningham's father, who was a African American aviator, Tuskegee Airman, was sent to the Pacific and flew liaison aircraft. And then after the war, he had one of these to fly, and that was described as his Beaver. That's his airplane. Period. So it's a great subject, and it's just tremendously versatile. You can find any airplane, any scheme you want, any story you want, and you can fit it to the Beaver. It's just a great airplane.
It's when you look at sort of Canada's post-war aviation industry, they've got a brilliant history of designing extremely utilitarian aircraft that just do the job. I mean, the Chipmunk, the Beaver, the Twin Otter, the Caribou, the Buffalo, the 215/415. They're all just none of them are what you call beautiful, but they're all beautiful in their execution.
Oh, I don't know. I think the Chipmunk's a fabulous looking aeroplane.
All right, I'll accept the Chipmunk from that. But all the rest tended to.
I think the measure of how good they are at it is the fact of how many are still flying in places like Alaska.
The Beaver is still. There's a turbo Beaver now as well, isn't there? They put a turbo prop on it, and you can still see them all throughout the Canadian North and Alaska as well. It's still one of the go-tos, especially float planes.
Well, Canadian planes, the Canada airplanes, are beautiful to the people who see them coming, because they're usually flying into some place that is remote and really needs service. I was up sea kayaking up in British Columbia probably about 20 years ago now, and one of the fun things for me was looking up and seeing the collection of airplanes flying around, including some Beavers, including some round engine Beavers still flying around, servicing those areas, because that was the only way you could get to them. So really cool.
I remember correctly, there was someone saying there's still a couple of Northern Norsemen flying around in Northern Alaska on float.
Yeah.
That class of aircraft, it will be, if it does the job and you can keep it maintained and you can keep it flying.
Well, the thing is,
what do you replace it with if you can't?
They're just ridiculously simple aeroplanes, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are about as simple in terms of what's gone into them as it's possible to get. It's why the Antonov AN2 is still, it's so widespread. It's because they are so simple. It is.
Can it do the job? If the answer is yes, keep going.
It's tube, it's string. And you just chuck a radial engine on the front and away you go. All of them are design classics.
Yeah, Dave Fleming says hopefully a black-green army option. No one has done that yet. Dave, I get the funny feeling with Dora Wings that de Havilland Beaver story is going to run and run. I mean, I was just thinking, Drew, I think it was the May 1987 copy of Scale Aircraft Modeling when they covered the de Havilland Beaver, and it was Mike Keep just did pages and pages and pages of fabulous color schemes, and Anyway,
Well, with that, I have to go, folks. I have to go to get that contract signed.
Okay, up, Chris.
yeah. All right, Chris.
Wonderful talking
Lovely
to
to
you.
have you here, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
I hope so. See you soon.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah,
Chris.
Chris. Take
Bye,
care,
bye,
mate.
bye, bye,
Chris.
bye. And then there were 3, which is a damn fine album, I got to say. Didn't like it for decades, and then I listened to it a few years ago, and I thought, God, this is an absolutely brilliant album. Anyway, right, Ian, less of the progressive rock. Let's talk about ICM. This is another Ukraine-heavy show tonight. This is an upcoming release that they're doing, which is a Ford Model A gangster car. 24 scale shades. I've written down in my notes here shades of MPC's 1927 Lincoln,
which I've been trying to find out of my stash for about the last 2 days. I can't find it. I know I've got one because that's got alternative glass with bullet holes in it and things like that. And they reissued it a couple of years ago. This is their fairly recently as last year or earlier this year Phaeton. Ford Model A Phaeton, obviously packaged. There'll be another sprue or so with the machine guns and the bags and the handguns on it. I think, but they're very good at ringing the changes out of their kit, particularly their car kits. I mean, I've had, you can see on the shelf from where I am, 2 or 3 of their Model T, 1913 era Model Ts, and they are very, very nice and very, very pretty little kits. But I like that idea. That'd been quite nice. Then everybody got a Bonnie and Clyde that they can 3D print.
I was just thinking Bonnie and Clyde.
I'll have to word with Model U and see if I can find a Fade Dunaway.
I was just thinking, obviously, with ICM now being part of the hobby company banner, fingers crossed, I would love to build one of these for Telford. It tickles me. This does. It kind of reminds me. I know I mentioned my late Uncle Roger quite a bit on this show, but it's the kind of thing that he would have snapped up. And yeah.
Going back.
Carry on.
So it is a logical and nice way to maximise the tooling. And I think there'll be people that will buy that simply because it's packaged in that way. It would be nice if you had a couple of little figures with it. You know what I mean?
I would not be surprised for ICM to actually bring some figures out further down the line, rather. So, right, next news item is this. I'm in the market for one of these. Literally 4 wheels on my wagon, and this is Mini Art, and they're doing a Sunderen Hanger Ost 1.5 ton German cargo trailer. Now this is the thing we love about Mini Art. They don't do the obvious, do they?
They certainly don't. No.
Carry on.
I now the visuals on that. 2 things it's saying. Is it designed to go behind their new RSO?
I would imagine so.
And I am feeling that's a converted railway piece.
Yep.
Great War, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it's just like a yes, I'm with you there. It just looks like a general kind of cargo wagon that's locomotive wagon that's been converted for road use. I just love this. It doesn't. I'm going to stick my neck out here. It doesn't look overly complex for a Mini Art kit, although we'll come to that in a second, because Mini Art can make the surprisingly simple incredibly complex. But
famous last words moment, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit.
As soon as you said it, I knew we were doomed.
And I'm looking at you, 3-wheel tempo. Yeah, there we go. So there's it, beautifully presented as always by Mini Art. Those are the sprues. That's it. The runners, or whatever you want to call them. So that's pretty much it.
Simple, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, that looks fairly straightforward. there's your stickers, decal sheet included. So it's got all the weights and the weight stencils and everything on there. Then we have color schemes. So we've got field applied camouflage over a Sandgel 1, another field applied camouflage, an overall sand colored 1, and the one that grabs my fancy, a winter whitewash 1, because we can do lots of chipping on that. Hurrah! The other beautiful thing about this is that those wheels, by the looks of things, they're just solid wheels. So don't have to worry about painting tires on these. So it gets my vote. I don't know how much it's going to be or when it's coming out, but I want one. So add that to the great big long list of another kit that I want for this year.
Add that to the list of want ones.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw a mini art boxing that you went, I don't want that?
Well,
I think that's telling on their product selection, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's where we look at every time we look at, even if I'm watching a new guy looking at a mini art, it's like, I know Jonathan will want that, or I know
whatever mini art release, it stimulates your imagination, doesn't it? You see, the second you see it, there's a diorama built in your head, and I don't even build dioramas. But the second I see anything, I think, how would that go in a diorama?
Okay, yeah. Tim's clarified here. He says it's not based on a railway wagon, so there we go. Okay.
Okay. But the minute I saw it, I thought that's going to be stuck behind their RSO tractor that they've just issued on multiple bases, on multiple stands, all the way around Telford and in the competition. You can just see it, can't you?
I think it's a kind of a general utility wagon that probably just got towed by pretty much everything, including probably tanks as well. So right, next news item, and this is Micromere. It is the scrolls down. It is the 144 scale B21 Raider, the replacement for the B2. Yeah, like the look of this.
The problem is there's not nearly enough information available yet to really do this, a model of this with any degree of accuracy.
No,
that's my concern. I love the idea of it, and it's a surprisingly small aeroplane as well. It's not nearly as big as, it looks the same size as a B2. It's not. It's much smaller than a B2. It's only got 2 engines for a start. I love the idea. It's probably best Micromere do it at this point because they're quite a limited run company anyway. But there's really not enough information available yet to be able to say that there's any degree of accuracy other than the plan form, which we know.
I think we're almost repeating history here, Drew, with the great rush to get F-117 kits out in the late 1980s.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm glad it's Micromere because what that means is perhaps there's not going to be such as significant an investment in it, if you know what I mean. It's not going to cost so much to do an accurate one down the line. When I suspect the likes of Academy or somebody will do one when we know more about it. But very, very interesting aeroplane.
I'm with Travis here. Looks good in grey too. Yeah, I think it looks fabulous in grey. So
yeah, it's clearly the sort of harbinger of 6th gen stealth. So I like the idea. I have severe reservations about doing it just yet.
Okay. Mike Williams says Mini Art put up renders of their forthcoming P47D Thunderbolt Razorback this week.
They did.
We know, Mike, because the next news item is this.
The Thunderbolt has been very well served in recent years.
Yeah.
I you know, and I'm very happy about that. What an aeroplane!
Oh,
What an aeroplane!
yep.
Just a brute.
And this is their basic kit, but I think anybody who saw the bubble top, I think basic was kind of like a bit of a misnomer, because Mini Art's idea of a basic kit is still massively kind of detailed compared to some other manufacturers. But this, oh my goodness me! I mean, this is all it's been tonight. Is we've been showing new kits, and almost every single one of them, I want one, and I definitely want one of these, because I have built SEAC bubble tops, but I have not built a SEAC Razorback yet.
Funny, Dave just asked exactly the question I was wondering. Is the D11 one without the keel?
Yeah.
I don't know. Look at the box art again, John.
Yeah, I'm just going back.
Yes, I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it hasn't got that deeper keel of the later Ds, which covered a massive piping and stuff. So oh, great. I love the way the Thunderbolt has been covered in recent years. You know, because I think it's Dora again. They've done Bs and Cs. Which I have multiple boxings of. So they've done the very early Razorbacks. We've had plenty of bubble tops, and now we're getting the Razorback Ds. And also, oh no, that has got the keel. That has got the keel. And I also saw this week that somebody did say to Mini Art, "What about a P47N?" And they said that will be coming. So the P47N. Which is my very, very favourite Thunderbolt of them all.
Was that the one that Academy did at some point?
Yes, Academy did it, and Monogram did it.
Modeler,
Hella did it in 72nd with an upside down aerofoil on the wing. It's Italeri did it, and it's not a great model. It's been done a few times, but never. Let's say it's there's plenty of room for a brand new one in 48th or 72nd, because the P47N was just massive, even in terms of Thunderbolts. You know, maximum takeoff weight of a P47N was 22,500 pounds.
I built the Academy kit when it came out. Check's notes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I remember.
It will be
97,
30 years ago next year. 96.
Yeah, I was going to say 97, I thought, but yeah, I
remember them bringing it to Telford or Donington or something like that at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a long range one for use in the Pacific, with the extended wing and all that good stuff. But yeah, when you think of Spitfire's takeoff weight tended to be around 10 or 11,000 pounds, and the P47N's maximum takeoff was 22,500 pounds. It gives you some idea of.
There's some pictures, isn't it? Like size comparison pictures. They're just a row of P47s with a variety of other airplanes over the top.
Yeah,
they're all about half the size. It's sort of zero.
The 109G fits entirely inside a P47. Yeah. There's not a single bit of it that's outside the profile of a P47. No.
I mean, just an absolute brutal
aeroplane.
Right, Ian, more cars, more cars. And so if we flick through the pictures here, these were stragglers from the other week. So what are we looking at here?
I asked a few questions of these. Over the last couple of years, a couple of the other the Japanese manufacturers, they shoot some kits which are kind of like a semi-snap together setup. Those of you who follow my on Plastic Wheels Facebook page will know I built a Fujimi BNR 34 Skyline Christmas time, and that was of that class. It looks like Aoshima coming into that market. There's a logo right hand side, clearly says Snap. And they're doing some new tool kits in this range. Now, they're what we would traditionally call curbside. You have an interior, you have a fairly that's an and that's the Fast and Furious version, and and their subject choice is good, and they look pretty decent from the outside. But the idea is they're a little bit easier to build reasonably quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see what these are. The other question is whether we'll actually get them over here. That's a very lovely thing. The new RZ34, the 2024 Nismo car, that's just beautiful. But you can see that it's a fairly detailed interior, a good body shape, but from what I understand, fairly less detail on the chassis. And it's going to be interesting to see.
As a car modeler layman, I really don't have a problem with that, Ian, because unless you're picking the car up and having a look on the underside, it's just
So this is I think they're referring to this as Evolution 3 or something like that,
right?
Or some such. That's actually a reference to the car up there. But these Snap Car logo, you'll see there's a Honda Civic behind that one. There you go, EK9 Civic. It's an interesting concept. These aren't from that range. These are Nissan 180 SX is in tuner mode. So, but they're very.
That was another Snap kit.
Yeah, so that's a FC, and that's an Evo. That'll be the Evo 3, I think. I'm not. You know what? That's one of the few cars I do not have much knowledge about. Is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evos. I'm not. Never really attracted me.
So I'm just having a look to see. It's the same picture. We've got the same picture twice here. Dual.
But anyway, so that's that thing. Yeah, and Mike's just said nobody looks underneath. My argument is if you're looking underneath my model, particularly without my permission, your life expectancy isn't long enough to complain about it.
Yeah.
So,
shades of IPMS USA Nationals, or that guy picking that tank up and looking underneath it.
Yeah. To do that to my model. If I'm there and I'm showing you, you'll understand what it is. I would have told you what it is. If you're doing it randomly and you're just going to bitch about it, you're not going to live very long. But I mean, cars are on their wheels, unless you're going to put it on a mirrored base or something like that. In which case, you aren't going to be using that kit. You're going to be doing something full detail, and that's because that's what you're showing off. If I'd have prepared better, I would have pulled my other Fujimi Skyline off the shelf, and I'll show you exactly. Well, you get very little in it. There's 60, 70 parts that are pushed, which for a car kit isn't a great deal. But you've got enough in there to make a good, on its wheels, nicely detailed from the outside, looks like the subject matter. And of course, outline is everything with those. So and the shape. And they don't have opening hoods, they don't have opening doors, they don't need any of that because it's just about the car and the shape. Yeah. And if they're with their Shima stuff, it isn't always massively expensive, so it'll be quite. If they're newer tooling and they're done to that standard, it'll be nice to see them.
I'm looking at you, Italeri / Eschi Ford Escort Arbath, because I have had to. Separate hood. I know you can pose it open to show the engine off, but we have been going in there today with super glue on the front just to make sure it's fully secured, because where they molded that on the inside, and Ian did warn me about this, is it did give you horrible kind of sink marks on the exterior. So that has been, I put this up on the page, but that has been filled, primed, filled again, primed. So now I'm just going over it with a final bit of Trizacking. Then we can start throwing some colour at this. So I'm looking forward to finishing that off because I want to get it finished for Telford. and it means I can build a car and I can dirty it up. So there we go. Right, final news item for tonight. It's our and finally moment. And local manufacturers, Model U, down in that there, Bristol, they're bringing out a scale model of a Jennifer Wright.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely fabulous. So you two can have a scale model of I don't want to call her our Jen, but you know what I mean. She's part of the gang.
Our Jen in full Urk mode.
Yeah, in full out mode. Now the funny thing is, already some people were criticizing this and saying that some of the details on the costumes were wrong, and she's not wearing ear defenders. Well, the ear defenders are actually there on her high vis, and it was all manner of things that I just thought, yeah, Jen's not going to get that wrong. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. I am looking forward to seeing what scales Jen ends up being. Although no, I was going to say she'll probably end up with a scale model and actually be taller than her, but you know what I mean.
There's no need for it, John. There's no need for
Your life expectancy just became very short.
Yeah,
it did.
Defend herself.
That's absolutely. But
we do not stand by the comments made by our fellow contributor, Jen.
No. She'll.
Yeah, we distance ourselves, Jen. It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Love you.
I think we could do. I think the thing would get if she gets one prints up to about 24 scale, puts it on a base with that I've just popped away from the stand sign. That would be useful.
Absolutely brilliant. And Roy's doing terrible puns here at the moment, and yeah. So we
It must be nice to have a subject you can get the original Jen on.
Very good. Oh, that is a pun to end all puns. That is absolute genius, or genius even. Right, chaps, before I get myself into any more trouble with Jen.
I think that boat sailed.
Yes.
You're on your own.
Go sign yourself up for a pure cremation.
Ian and I are doing the Homer thing where we're disappearing into the hedge.
Yeah.
Right. Any other business?
Funnily enough, I was going to raise any other business and talk about them again, but Drew's already done it. I'd put them to one side to bring that. The Hi-Q parts circle mask sheets.
Yeah, I've got some. Hang about.
Yeah, because I had to, as you'll understand, I had to mask the two shocker tops on that chassis. Oh, I'll go that way. And there's nothing easier.
It's just, I mean, I was so happy when I got these when Premium Hobby sent these to us, and yeah, everybody's got them. They're just so wonderful. They're just so phenomenally useful to have around. Yep. I mean, I've got a cutter, and I've cut many a circle mask for wheels and stuff. But just having the ability to just
pick one off,
just peel it straight off the sheet and go. That's just fabulous.
20 seconds masked that. It was done.
It's
the only issue I possibly have with them is the fact that you do get through a lot of similar sizes.
Yeah.
Although the funny one was, because Sod's Law says I needed a 5.7 mil for something, and it's the only size they do in the 5 to 6G that they don't do.
Right.
Which was like.
But each of the corners on the canopy of this Jaguar, because it's got a curved corner to the clear part, each of those I just popped off one of those. I think I used the 3 or 4 millimeter ones. Just popped one in each corner, and then joined the dots with strips of tape. Job done.
Before I had these, the little sheets that Gunze do for that job. They do this. It's that's a sheet of 1 mil and 2 mil strips, and then there's another sheet of circles and triangles and bits that I've had those for a long time, and that's about my second or third pack of each of those. But,
yeah, I mean, I've done that with my cutter. I've cut strips like a millimeter, 2 millimeter strips for doing cheat lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just the consistency over sitting there with a ruler and a knife, where stuff invariably wanders a little bit. Doesn't matter if you want just one straight edge, but if you need two straight edges a set distance apart, either getting sets like that or doing them on your cutter is quick, easy, and very, very accurate.
Mhm.
A 1 mil strip for which is parallel cut for things like trim lines, you know, and things like that. Just wonderful. And obviously, we've all got. I'm pretty sure if I wave a pack of this stuff around the Azu tape.
Yeah. Where'd
Yeah.
you get those tape strips from, Ian?
They're Guns Sanyo.
Oh,
Told
right.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
So they do. He says, pulling something out of the bag. So 1 and 2 mil strips. I've got to remember the dimensions. They're 2.5 and 3.5 mil circles. They do little triangles.
Oh, ping me a link to that, because that looks
And
looks
then
like stuff I
That's
need.
2 mil strips. So that whole sheet, like Drew says, he's cut a sheet of the 1 mils. That's a whole sheet of 1 mil wide strips, and that's a whole sheet of 2 mil wide strips, and there you go. So
Yeah, ping me a link from where
Nice
you got
universal
them
product.
from. Yeah.
will do. I got them from Hero Boy.
Okay.
Those in the UK. I don't know whether they still have them. They might have. If
Okay.
not, your usual Mr. Hobby supplier,
We'll be able to oblige.
Mhm.
Albion Alloys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Albion Alloys are the
Albion
important
Alloys or MD. What's it?
MDP.
MDP. Yeah, I think. Well, I can't remember. One of them's the importer, isn't it? Is it MDP?
Albion Alloys is the GSI importer these days.
Yeah, and because they were at the NEC show.
Yeah.
The other week, and
Oh, they always turn up at the nationals as well.
yeah, or nationals.
Yeah.
I always have a good trawl through the racks, because they always, obviously, as anybody would in that situation, they will always restock the racking in advance of a show like that. Anybody who can do that.
Mhm.
There's always a couple of Gunze colours I haven't got, or I need some more of, or there's another section of GX stuff that's come out that I haven't got, and I just love them. It's like that green. That's one of the ones I picked up at the NEC, and that's and they've done two. Hang on, they've done two in that lineup. GX 121, GX 122,
Mhm.
which are specifically marked as colours for it's gone out my head. Candy colours, so candy green and candy red,
Mhm.
and they're new. And apparently in Japan there's about another 9, which they haven't made it to the UK yet. So I'm rather hoping that come Telford I'll walk up to Albion Alloys and there'll be the other 9, and I'll be a happier man. So
He'll be a happy
Yeah.
man and 40 quid.
Yeah.
for
What's
it.
that T-shirt you got on tonight?
this
Yeah.
is Ratzilla.
All right. Okay. I saw the Zilla bit. I got excited, and then I suddenly thought,
No.
"Oh, it's Ratzilla." So
Yeah, it's there's an American resin custom car manufacturer called Jimmy Flintstone.
Yeah.
It's from them. They
Mhm.
do resin body shells and
Mhm.
various figure bits and doodahs. And in their day, they were, in the days of puddle resin and things like that, they were quite a force. But nowadays, unfortunately, things have moved beyond their point.
Rob Soto says, "Wait, what? No Resi kit released this week? Slackers. We did have Resi kit. Thunderbolt.
Yeah, they've actually gone into partnership with Mini-Art, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they're doing sets for the P47 and stuff.
But we'll talk about that next week. So, because I had to excise that because we've gone massively over time tonight. But never mind. So yeah, that will be next week, Rob, along with a couple of other news items that we're holding back. So, right, gents. Unless there's any other business, Drew, you okay?
Nope.
You done?
Everything's fine. I'm going to disappear and have something to eat. And
Oh, food, yeah. I'm starving, I am.
I'm going to go and read the fallout from this afternoon's Grand Prix, last 10 laps.
Well, what
Various
happened?
were summoned to the stewards, and Verstappen decided it was a really good idea to become a battering ram. Let's just say that.
I'm going to go and find out what the Tupolev Tu-95 score is now.
I think it's about 95% of the aircraft on the field, I believe. Is it not? What a shame. Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
On that note,
Did you notice the hit point selection?
Inboard wing section of every single aircraft.
Starboard wing route of every one.
Yeah. Is that APU location?
Oh,
Possibly.
just as long as you take out a similar area on every one.
You can't fix one with a bit of another. No. Very clever. Very subtle.
What the SAS did in 1982 on Pebble Island.
Hmm.
They took out the port engine of every Pucara.
Yeah. No.
On that note, I just want to say thank you to Ian, thank you to Drew, and thank you to Chris. And as always, a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight to watch, quite frankly, 4 middle-aged men drivel on about their favourite hobby. Fingers crossed, we'll be back next week. In the meantime, as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you very, very soon. So, bye for now.